My name is Benton Stokes. I'm a former fundamentalist, post-evangelical worship leader, and songwriter. I enjoy wry Manhattans, roller coasters, and road trips, just not all at the same time.
I'm Elane O'Rourke, and I'm a teacher, an author, and a spiritual coach. I was a philosophy professor and a liberal pastor in a couple of former lives, and these days I love aha moments and not so dry martinis.
We have conversations about life and God with a queer perspective, over cocktails, like you. This is Cocktail Theology. Okay, so I'll start by saying we are not actually vodka people.
Oh, no.
Like, we keep vodka around because we have friends who are vodka people. Mm-hmm. But I will say that last summer, we ran across a vodka that we liked. It was Deep Eddy Lemon. Mm-hmm. And we used it quite a bit last summer in cocktails. Mm-hmm. And it's got a great kind of summery, bright lemon taste, and it mixes pretty well with other things.
Yep.
So when you and I were at the Wine and Spirit store recently, we saw a Deep Eddy vodka that we hadn't tried. It's pineapple. Mm-hmm. So we thought it would be fun to do something with. So we picked it up. And it's super sweet.
It's almost a liqueur. I mean, it's like, It isn't because it's not viscous like that, but it's, yeah.
Yeah, it's got actual, like, pineapple juice in it.
Exactly.
So, I know you've been playing around with it. I've been playing around with it, trying to come up with how to use it. Mm-hmm. And I think you and I have stumbled onto something.
I think so.
This is a really good cocktail.
I like it.
So, it's a 3-ingredient, which we love. Mm-hmm. And it's equal parts, which we also love.
Mm-hmm. Although I admit I bumped up the gin a little bit.
Okay, that's totally fine.
Just a little bit.
It's gin, and in this case it's Tanqueray, but you could use other gins.
Sure.
It's the Deep Eddy pineapple.
Yep.
And then our old friend Benedictine, who
which
we
I
love,
find amazing.
Right? Such a versatile liqueur.
It really is.
It adds complexity to this drink.
Yep.
It adds richness to this drink.
Yep.
And it balances out the sweetness of the pineapple.
It's so strange because it's sweet, and yet it doesn't come off. It
doesn't.
I don't. Anyway, I'm going to drink it.
Yeah, it's
I really like
good.
this.
It's really good.
Mm-hmm. It's a good drink.
It is.
I would serve this to somebody.
I would too.
I think this is your concoction. I was like throwing horseradish at it.
Horseradish.
I mean, doing something like, come on. There's got to be a way to turn this into something that isn't quite so sweet. Because, you know, me and sweet. But I think this was brilliant. The other thing I tried, which actually worked pretty well, was some mezcal.
Oh, yeah.
And that worked in a very different way. But it balanced the sweetness. But this is lovely, this cocktail. I like it.
I'm glad you like it.
Thank
I don't
you.
have a name for it yet.
Okay.
I'll come up with one.
Okay. I'm sure you will.
I will.
It'll be better than one of mine. Mine are so ridiculous.
I like yours, though. Jarvis's daughter was pretty genius.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That night in Trinidad. Okay. So here's what I want to talk about today.
Okay.
So we are in the season, at what's called the season after Pentecost, or the season of Pentecost, or the second part of ordinary time, whatever you want to call it. But the point is it comes after Pentecost. Mm-hmm. And of course, when Pentecost is all about the Holy Spirit coming to the believers who had been all living basically in a room,
right,
or at least had been gathering in the room quite a lot.
Right.
And great signs and wonders happen when this happens. So at the end of that passage, there are a few verses that in the liturgical calendar, you read it every year. And when I was a pastor, they were really important verses to me. Let me read them to you.
Okay.
So this is Acts 2, 42 through 47. This is the disciples who were gathered in Jerusalem. Mm-hmm. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship, to the breaking of bread and to prayer. Everyone was filled with awe at the many signs and wonders performed by the apostles. All the believers were together and had everything in common. They sold property and possessions to give to anyone who had need. Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. So when I was a pastor, I was trying very hard to help my church think in terms of their life together. Mm-hmm. Because as we all know, no matter what organization you belong to, you have another life.
Yes. Yes.
And it's really easy for church to become the thing you go to on Sunday, or some combination of activities, but not really being a sense of the gathering of the people.
Yeah.
In that way. But the other piece of this is that the Bible makes a pretty strong connection between the Holy Spirit having come and inhabited and abiding with the folks, and the folks behaving this way.
Yeah.
This has been described as communal, it's been described as socialist, it's been described in all kinds of ways. So what I'm pondering, toying with, I'm not sure what I'm doing with it. I think there's something in it. I think that idea of living prayerfully in companionship with others, sharing food, worshiping in the temple, that's in big scare quotes, every day. There's something about that that's right. Not because by doing that, we will coerce the Holy Spirit into coming. Right? Like, it's not magic.
Right.
And it doesn't mean it will be easy or perfect.
Yeah.
But I think there's something in it. And I'm not sure what to do at this point in my life. I'm not sure what to do with the fact I think there's something in it. So I throw out to you any thoughts about this passage or about that idea of living or anything you've got. I want to hear it.
Well, it makes me think of two things.
Okay.
The first thing, it makes me think of monasteries. We visited a monastery in northern New Mexico a couple of years ago.
Yep.
Christ in the Desert. It was a place where they gardened. I think they had animals. They built things. They had various tasks that they did and chores that they did and things that each one of them was kind of responsible for. So they were busy, and they stopped on a schedule to pray, to sing, to read the Psalms, to eat communally. And I found that really, there's something about that felt kind of comforting to me. Like, I can imagine living in an environment like that where you feel provided for, but also you feel like you are contributing to everyone's provision. And there's a focus on God and everything that you're doing.
Yep.
A monastic life is not something that I necessarily aspire to, but it is something that I admire a great deal. And when we were there, it was a very peaceful place. Like, there was just a sense of just peace and wonder. It was a beautiful place, very remote, surrounded by mountains, and it was a crisp, clear day when we were there, and it was lovely. The whole thing was just lovely. So it makes me think of that. The other thing it makes me think of is our friend Jeremy, who we occasionally talk about here on the podcast. He lived communally with some folks in San Diego a few years ago.
Yes, he did.
He felt a little stuck where he was, and so he decided, I'm going to mix things up, and I'm going to go to San Diego and move in with these people that I don't know and try this out for a period of time.
That's right.
I forget, a few months.
And they had an intentional way of living.
It was very intentional. So he rented a room and lived communally with these folks, and it really made a mark on him.
Yes.
He has a lot of stories, but he made really good friends with a few of the people there. He learned a lot, I think, about other cultures, other lifestyles, other mindsets, other religious beliefs, etc. And I think he learned a whole lot about himself.
Agreed.
I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I really think he did. So it makes me think of him and how they would gather for meals, and different people would be responsible for different things, either for cooking the meal, preparing the meal, buying the groceries, or cleaning up after, or whatever. And everybody kind of had their role to play. I could see where something like that could work. And it's interesting, I think, for Jeremy, because he didn't know these folks before he did this. And that almost seems like it would be easier to do than moving in with a bunch of your friends. Everybody would come in with their own preconceived notions of how it's going to be.
And what your friendship is.
Right. But doing this with folks that aren't your friends, I could see where that would work.
So as you know, I've spent quite a lot of time in and around monasteries.
Yes.
Buddhist monasteries, Benedictine monasteries, Cistercian monasteries. I love me a monastery.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the rhythm of it. I love the getting up and praying 5 to 7 times a day. I love the silence. I prefer the silent places, or at least where silence is valued.
Yeah.
I love all of that. And I love the fact that when you come into a monastery, first of all, you aren't immediately allowed in forever, right? You have to try it on. They try you on and see if it all works.
Yeah.
But everything you've got either gets sold off and given to somebody else, or it belongs to the monastery.
Yeah.
It is that sense that this group of people is living together for the purpose of being closer to God, and in many of them, to pray for the world. It is their vocation to pray for the world.
Yeah. Wow.
And everything else simply keeps them going so they can pray for the world.
Yeah.
That's their job.
Yeah.
That's extremely appealing to me. And had my life gone slightly, I don't think it would have taken much. Had my life gone slightly differently, I probably would have stayed in a monastery of some kind. But I'm not there, and I'm too old to get into one. Most of them have cutoffs on ages. So I'm thinking, okay, so if I believe that this is a good way to live, now what?
Yeah.
You and I live very copacetically, but we don't pray together, eat, like that, and we don't live together for the purpose of loving God.
Right.
Right? There's nothing wrong with that. But it's a different thing.
It's a different thing. Right.
So I'm trying to figure out, if I believe that the only way to do that is in an enclosed community of some kind. Enclosed meaning a group of people who have chosen to be in that community together, intentional. Or whether there's a way to do that kind of living outside of a monastery. And I don't know. And whether frankly, whether it's just, me fantasizing about the first century, right? Or about the monasteries I've stayed in for long periods of time.
Well, I've heard a lot of sermons over the years that kind of wax rhapsodic about that Acts 2 church. In reality, though, who in a modern evangelical church, who would want to live that way? People who do live that way get criticized.
Yep.
Get laughed at. Get, called weird.
Yep.
That is not a model that most evangelical churches, for sure, but I would dare say most Christian churches don't actually try to hold up as any kind of standard that's reachable. So in that regard, I think you're right. I think the Catholics know what it is they're doing, and it makes sense. And you mentioned Buddhism. They know what they're doing, and it makes sense to them. It is a very intentional lifestyle choice. And people, like in Jeremy's situation, those people weren't living together out of a religious conviction of any kind or even a religious motivation. They were there for various reasons, came from different multiple religions represented.
But they had to have a practice.
They did. That's right. They did have to have a practice, a spiritual practice.
Correct.
Whatever, and they could define that how they wanted to. And I suppose one could create that situation if there was a house, a big enough house, or a group of small homes or something where people could have some independent living and also have communal living, and there would be, certain very clear expectations as to what each person was giving to the community and what each person would be able to benefit from the community, right? I could see that kind of thing working. How to begin something like that? I mean, I don't know.
Well, I want to push on that a little bit more.
Okay.
So I think the church as we know it in the United States is the temple.
Yeah.
So
The temple they're talking about in Acts 2.
Correct.
Yeah.
You go to temple regularly. Now, unless you're in a liturgical church that has services whether people are there or not because it's the right thing to do,
Yeah.
then, it's once a week to worship. But I think we need to translate church into temple here.
I like that. Sure.
And that's also, again, liturgical church. That's where the sacrifices are made, so it fits. Separate from starting a collection of houses.
Yeah.
Because people do that. I'm wondering whether it even makes sense to try and do that in the kind of life we all live. In that kind of life.
Yeah.
Like if you and I were going to do it even. Just us. How would we even go about doing that? What would that look like? And all we'd have to do is agree.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I mean? But like, first of all, it would have to be that we were putting the pursuit of God and living with equanimity first.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sitting here, and our listeners can't see it, but I'm shrugging. I'm just going, okay. Like, I don't want to dump this and say, well, that was so good for them. And, it's so good for the celibate men and women who gather in monasteries or in, whatever it is, whatever. It's so good for them. I'm so glad they do that. Because it's made such a big deal out of, and this is not the only place, but it's the clearest place. It's made such a big deal out of that I look at it and I go, I don't want to just dump that as being a particular cultural phenomenon that was perfectly happy to be done when Constantine came in. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I don't know what to do with it.
I think that, we are all living more isolated lives than ever.
100%.
And younger generations, particularly growing up with laptops and iPads and phones and devices, and then throw COVID into the mix, and there's just so much isolation.
Yeah.
And there are many people who are perfectly content to view the world through their phone. So a life like you're talking about would be, I would think, incredibly difficult for someone who really lives an isolated life. I think to begin with, you would already have to be able to communicate openly with people, to put your phone away and enjoy social time with other people. Just kind of baseline social skills. And I think that, unfortunately, and I'm not just laying this on younger generations, there are plenty of people our age that are the same way. That would be really difficult for so many people to just do that much. I feel like we've all become very attached to having ready access to any tidbit of information we want, any bit of news we want, any person we want to reach out to. We just do it on our phone. And so having conversations, sitting across, even just like dinner table stuff.
It's hard.
People don't do that.
It's hard.
So I think you'd have to start with people that already appreciate at least that much and are willing to maybe agree to hours when you use your phone and hours when you don't. Things like that.
Okay.
And that's not even bringing God into the mix. That's just how do you live with other people?
I hear you. And I don't disagree with you. I have a sense, and this comes from no research, it is just my deep sense, that there are a whole heck of a lot of people who don't want to live like that anymore and don't know what to do about it. And it's so hard to fight against that. It's so hard.
Oh, yeah.
And it's hard to fight against the everything at your fingertips.
It is.
Even if you're poor, every aspiration is at your fingertips.
Yeah.
Right? I think it has to come from a deep longing. It has to come from people longing for more connection to God and other people.
Yeah.
And that has to be worth changing something.
Right.
The question is whether you can, does it have to be all or nothing? Does it have to be everybody moves into the same house or into a community, you know what I mean? Whatever the thing, a kibbutz, whatever it is. Does it have to be that or nothing? Or like, how would you, at this point in history, how would you try to live out that way of being with a particular group of other people? This is not everybody come and do your thing whenever you do your thing, but a particular group of other people. How would you do that? How would you even, I mean, there's got to be an answer to this. There's got to be an answer that is better than, you know, and maybe there isn't. I mean, maybe that's why the desert fathers and mothers wound up going out into the desert, you know, in the second and third centuries. They were like, yeah, this whole like Rome thing is screwed up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to have to be part of the monastery of Christ in the desert to do this unless they let me in.
Go knock on the door. Please let me in.
Please. I can turn over my 401k and I can turn over, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how you would do it if you didn't live communally, whatever that means. I think because there's just too many distractions and too many opportunities, too many things to pull us away from that. If you know that you're going to have dinner with these people every night at 6:00 around the table, then that is something that you build your life around.
That's right.
It's something you commit to. And if you live separately, then it makes it really difficult to commit to something like that, because people have to get in the car or just walk to wherever it is they're going. And, you know, people get sick, people get tired, people check out. And so pretty soon, you know, you fall by the wayside. Just same way with church attendance or anything else. The living together and living in proximity and daily being together is probably a big part of this.
I think proximity is. I think you hit something on proximity, because we all live farther away from each other than these guys did.
Definitely.
Right?
Yes.
So if I'm trying to think about somebody who lives close to us, whom we love, people who come to worship on Sunday evening, they live 5 hours walking distance.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And these guys were, you know, walking distance.
Right.
So there's something about that.
Yeah.
But I don't know if our listeners have a longing for this or an interest in this or are practicing this in any way, but I would love to hear how people are figuring this out, if they're figuring it out, and if they haven't figured it out, what they're thinking about figuring it out. I would love to hear from our listeners about this. And please do not refer me to, you know, whatever they're called, the life groups that mega churches had. Please don't refer, please. Please.
That is not the same thing.
It is not the same thing. God love Rick Warren. Go back and listen to one of our podcasts about Rick Warren, but that's not what I'm talking about.
No. Yeah, listeners, reach out. Cocktailtheology.com is where we are. We love hearing from you always. Ideas for episodes, questions, comments, disagreement, all that stuff is welcome. You can find us all the time.
Everywhere,
all the time.
On YouTube, even.
Even on YouTube.
That's and iHeartRadio. We're on iHeartRadio. Who knew?
Yeah, there we are.
The things I learn.
I know.
I love staying curious. And the fact that iHeartRadio came through my email and told me that while I was blindly scrolling one night. Anyway.
Till next time, friends.
Bye.
Funny how the view can change, how life just seems to rearrange itself, no matter what it was. I don't know how it goes, but look, moving on feels pretty good. Moving on feels pretty good.
If you enjoyed this episode, please give us a like and hit subscribe wherever you're listening right now. We welcome your comments, questions, and ideas for conversations and for cocktails. Please get in touch with us at our website, cocktailtheology.com. Cocktail Theology is a production of SFS. Our theme song is Moving On Feels Pretty Good, recorded by yours truly, Benton Stokes. You can find my music wherever you stream your favorite artists. Join us next Thursday for another new episode.